The world slows down, the lights dim, and all that's left is the sound of a story. Good evening, friends. I'm Mr. Narratory, and I'll be your voice tonight as we drift gently toward sleep. If these stories help you relax or fall asleep a little easier, consider liking and subscribing. It really means a lot. Tell me in the comments, what time is it for you right now? And do you have any little bedtime rituals? Now, settle in, get comfortable, close your eyes if you'd like, because it's time for tonight's story. I've always been a solitary kind of person, not antisocial, not broken, just comfortable in my own space. A weekend alone in the woods was never about escape for me. It was about reset. Noise fades out there. Your mind clears. The stupid things feel smaller, and the quiet doesn't feel empty, just fair. So when I packed up for a 4-day solo hike through the White Pines Preserve, I wasn't expecting anything but solitude. I checked the trail reports, marked the spots where the signal cut out, filed the hike plan with the ranger station, and drove out Friday morning with nothing but the basics. Tent, food, first aid, GPS, and a worn paperback I'd read 3 times already. It wasn't remote, not in the helicopter rescue sense, but it was empty enough that once I passed the 2nd mile marker, I didn't see another person. Just birds, wind, branches shifting in the middle distance. My first night was exactly what I wanted. Fire crackling, cold beer, the sound of trees creaking in the wind, and no voices but the one in the book. I slept light forest. Silence is always alive with snaps and clicks, but nothing stood out, nothing wrong. The second night, things changed, not with a bang, just something subtle. I woke up around 3:40 a.m. No alarm, no sound that I could name. Just suddenly awake. Alert, still. And then I heard it. A voice. Soft. Male. Not far from the tent. Jack, it said. That's my name. Just once. Quiet. Like someone saying it to see if I was awake. I froze, heart racing. I didn't move. I listened. Nothing. Just the wind. Maybe it was a dream. But then again, Jack. This time a little closer. Still low, still calm, but definite. I sat up, unzipped the sleeping bag slowly. No flashlight yet, just my breath. Shallow, fogging the cold air in front of me. I didn't say anything back, didn't want to. I waited 2 full minutes. Silence, then leaves crunching. Footsteps, slow, measured. Maybe 30 feet from the tent. But I never heard an approach, just presence. I turned on the flashlight, flicked it toward the zipper, and held. The voice didn't come again. Nothing moved. The steps stopped. I waited until sunrise. When I finally opened the flap, there were no footprints, no broken branches, just dew on the grass, and a silence that felt heavier now, like the trees were listening. I didn't hike that day. Stayed near camp. Chalked it up to sleep paralysis or forest echo, even though I'd never hallucinated in my life. But that night, I didn't sleep. I waited. And sure enough, 3:44 a.m. The voice came again, closer. This time, you remember me. Not a question, a statement. I sat there with the flashlight off, holding the knife I kept by the bag, and I tried to remember every voice I've ever known. But none of them sounded like that. The third night, it stopped calling my name. It just stood there, silent, breathing. I didn't see it, but I swear to God, I felt it. The air shifted like it was displaced by something with weight, something real. And by then, I knew I wasn't alone. I hadn't been since the first night. The woods had been quiet, but something else had not. I broke camp at sunrise. I didn't eat, didn't make coffee, just shoved everything into my pack and started moving. My hands were shaking as I cinched the straps, not from cold, but from that strange, skin-deep vibration you get when your body knows more than your brain will admit. I kept looking back at the tree line, listening for footsteps that never came. But the silence didn't feel like safety anymore. It felt like surveillance, like a held breath. I knew I had 2 miles to the fork that would take me back to the parking lot. 4, maybe 5 hours, depending on terrain. I didn't run. I didn't want to seem afraid, like that would give it something. I just walked, steady. But the weird thing was, I never saw the mile marker. Not the one I passed coming in, not the fork either. And I know these trails. I mark things. Little things a notch in a fallen tree, a cluster of white fungi I'd photographed on day 1, gone. Like the forest had reskinned itself behind me. I pulled out my GPS, signal strong, but the dot didn't move. It just pulsed right in the middle of a blank patch of land with no marked trails, no elevation lines, no road access. Like I wasn't anywhere. I restarted it twice. Nothing. Still stuck. I pushed forward, faster now, heart hammering against the inside of my chest. By midday, I realized I'd looped. I came across a small clearing with a fire-ringed stones arranged in a circle, black char in the center, a partially burned branch still resting on top. Mine. The one I'd made the first night, only now the ash looked fresh, like it had been stirred. I walked slowly into the clearing, scanning the perimeter, and then I saw something hanging from a low branch at the edge of the tree line. A piece of fabric, navy blue. I reached up, tugged it down, and felt cold flood my spine. It was a sock. Mine. Not from today. Not from my pack. From yesterday, the pair I'd worn hiking and tossed into the tent's laundry bag before bed. I dropped it, turned, walked fast. Not quite running, not yet, but the trees were shifting again. Familiar logs now faced the wrong direction. Bent saplings I'd marked had snapped clean. I didn't make camp that night. I kept walking until the light thinned out into dusk, until the birds stopped calling, until I physically couldn't walk another step. I dropped where I stood. No tent, no fire. Just my bag behind my back, knife in hand, head against a tree. And then the voice came again. No footsteps, no crunch, just breath first, close. So close I could feel condensation on my cheek. Then, you always leave, but I never do. It wasn't loud, it didn't need to be. The words settled into my bones like weight, like memory. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I just sat there, knife clutched tight enough to dig into my palm, teeth grinding so hard I felt one pop loose a day later. I stayed that way until dawn. Then I stood up, turned on the GPS again, and saw the blue dot had moved. I don't know when or how, but it had shifted east by maybe half a mile. Still no trails, still no features, but it wasn't stuck. I started walking toward where I thought the main path might be. An hour later, I found something in the dirt. Not a map, not food, a photograph, lying face up on a pile of dry pine needles. A printed photo, glossy, me, standing at the edge of the same clearing from yesterday. Same sock in my hand, same confused look on my face. But the angle was from behind me, high, like it had been taken from the trees. I dropped it, didn't even look at the back, just turned and kept walking. And that night, when I finally stopped, I heard the voice again. But this time, it didn't say my name. It just said, "Don't look behind you." And the only reason I didn't is because I could hear it breathing inches away. There's a kind of terror that doesn't come with screaming or running. It just settles, heavy in the chest, cold in the stomach. It's the kind where you start whispering your own name just to remember who you are. That's where I was, sitting in the dirt back to a tree, knife clenched, heartbeat loud enough that I swore the trees could hear it. I didn't look behind me, I didn't move, and eventually the breathing stopped. Not like someone walking away, just ended. Like a radio being shut off mid-breath. I stayed frozen until dawn again. That's when I realized the air had changed. No birds, no rustling leaves. Even the wind had gone still. I stood slowly and checked the GPS. The screen flickered once, then cleared. My blue dot was gone, replaced by 2 lines of text I'll never forget. "We follow, you sleep." I dropped the device, it cracked on a rock. I didn't care. I grabbed my pack and just walked, not in any direction, not toward anything, just away. But the woods didn't let me. I'd walk for an hour and see the same fallen tree, the same leaning pine with the carved bark. I stopped trusting the sun. I stopped trusting time. And at some point, maybe day 4, maybe 5, I came across a second campsite. Not mine. Smaller, rougher. A tarp tied between 2 trees. Burned coffee pot. Ash still warm, but no one there. No sign of a trail in or out. I approached slow. My voice cracked when I called out like I hadn't spoken in days. "Hello?" No answer, just silence. Then I saw the notebook, lying near the tarp, damp at the edges. I picked it up. The first few pages were lists, gear, food, a short itinerary, all dated 3 years ago. Then the entries, short, rushed. Night 1, saw someone pass the tree line, pretended not to. Night 2, they whispered my name. It wasn't a voice I knew. Night 3, something left food outside the tent. It was warm. Night 4, tried to follow the stream back out. It moved. Then, the last entry. Don't answer it, no matter who it sounds like. The rest of the pages were blank. I flipped through them twice, hoping for coordinates, a name, something, but nothing else. I sat down hard on a tree stump and stared at the woods around me. And that's when I realized it wasn't just that the forest had swallowed the trail. It had started to replicate things. My sock, my photo, my own voice repeated back at me. Now it had someone else's campsite, someone else's journal, someone who didn't leave, someone who might still be here. I didn't sleep that night. I built a fire, not for warmth, I just wanted light. I didn't bring wood. I broke branches with my hands until my palms bled. When the fire burned low, I heard something moving behind me again. Not quiet this time, not whispering. It was humming. A tune I didn't recognize at first until I realized it was the one I sing to myself when I'm nervous. Wordless, just notes. But the same pattern, the same pauses, sung perfectly, just a little off-key, like someone learning it secondhand. I stood, turned slowly, nothing there. But the fire flickered, not from wind, but breath, a warm exhale from the trees. Then the voice, now calm, now inside the camp, said, "You left me last time, don't do it again." I backed away. No tent, no bag, just flashlight and knife. The fire hissed behind me, but I didn't look back. I ran until my lungs hurt. I ran until I didn't know if I was still in the woods or in a dream of them. When I finally stopped, I fell flat to the dirt, gasping. Above me, no stars, just black. Like the sky had closed its eyes. I passed out cold. And when I woke, there was a photo pinned to the chest of my jacket with a sharpened stick. Me, asleep on the ground, taken from above, taken from last night. I didn't scream when I saw the photo pinned to my chest. I didn't even react. Fear had burned itself down into something quieter by then. Colder, not panic, but resignation. I'd accepted that whatever was out here didn't want to kill me. Not exactly. It wanted to keep me, study me, walk beside me, until I forgot which footsteps were mine. I took the photo and folded it once. Didn't put it in my pack. Just slid it into my pocket like it was ID. My name, my face, my final proof of self. The forest around me had changed again. It wasn't just a matter of direction anymore, it was design. Trees were too evenly spaced, branches too identical, the ground too flat for natural earth. I'd been in enough woods to know this wasn't terrain. It was architecture. I started walking with that in mind, not looking for a trail, but for a path laid deliberately. And within an hour, I found it. Not a trailhead, a gap. 2 trees, angled just so, like a doorway. Just wide enough for me, just tall enough, like someone had carved the entrance to a space meant only for me. I paused, waited for a sound, a voice, a movement, anything. Nothing came, so I stepped through. On the other side, everything was darker. No birds, no wind, just silence and an almost electrical weight in the air, like standing too close to a high-voltage wire. The first thing I saw was the stone, not a grave marker, a boulder, weathered, natural. But on its face were dozens of etchings, names, dates, not carved, but scratched deep and chaotic. Some of the names were partial, others fully legible. A few I recognized. From childhood, from old yearbooks, from the notebook at the campsite, and at the very bottom, still fresh, still glistening in the right light, was my name, my full name. No date yet, just space left beside it. I stepped back, looked up, and that's when I saw the trees weren't random anymore. They formed a near circle around the stone, a stage, a kind of gathering space. And at the far end, maybe 20 feet beyond, was a small structure. I thought it was a cabin at first, but as I got closer, I saw the roof was torn open. The walls collapsed inward. It had burned years ago, by the look of it. Just enough left standing to know it had once been shelter. There were photos nailed to what remained of the walls, not printed ones. Polaroids, film, me, Jamie, my brother, my mother, old friends, all asleep. All taken from high angles, from doorways, from shadows. I counted 38. And one empty square of wall, hammer still hanging on a nail nearby, waiting. I didn't go inside. I turned back and realized the trees had moved again. The way I came in was gone, replaced by more trees, more dark. No path, no sky, just forest. I shouted then. I broke, screamed until my voice cracked. What do you want? No answer, just breath, warm and steady, right behind me. Then the voice, softer now, said, "This time, you stay until you understand." I turned slowly, ready to swing, and saw no one, but on the ground, just behind where I'd stood, was another Polaroid. This one of me, hammer in hand, reaching toward the wall, ready to hang the next photo. And I swear, in that moment, I remembered doing it, like it was a memory borrowed from a dream I hadn't dreamed yet. And for the first time since I stepped into these woods, I felt something worse than fear. Recognition. There's a moment when the human mind stops asking why and starts asking what next. And I crossed that line when I saw the photo of myself with the hammer. I didn't scream, didn't cry, just stared at that frozen image of me, jaw set, arm lifted like I was helping finish the exhibit. I didn't remember it, not clearly, but it felt right, like deja vu with teeth. I dropped the photo, turned in a slow circle, and realized the forest hadn't just closed in, it had curated a perimeter. The fire pit I'd made on night one was there again, fresh now, rocks clean. My old tarp, the one I'd left behind near the first voice, was folded neatly beside a circle of kindling. Even my worn-out copy of the book I'd brought, torn at the spine, bent in the corner, was resting against a log, open to a page I hadn't reached yet. It had arranged things for me, prepared, not with violence or threat, but with understanding. That was the part that broke something in me. It knew my rituals, my patterns. It didn't want to torment me. It wanted me to return to routine. I sat by the pit, not because I wanted to, but because the part of me that wasn't mine anymore had already decided that's where I belong. And when I picked up the book, I didn't flip to the first page. I started reading exactly where it had left it open. The words felt familiar. I could have sworn I'd never read them before, but I already knew the next sentence before my eyes scanned it, like something had written it for me, or through me. The fire started on its own. I didn't see it spark, just looked up and it was burning. Soft, blue-orange, perfectly centered, And then the voice returned, not from the dark this time, but from the trees themselves. Multiple voices, overlapping, humming in harmony. Some said my name, some whispered things I couldn't translate, but one deep and sure spoke clearly behind my shoulder. "You've almost remembered." I didn't turn around. I think by then I knew what I'd see, or who, because the longer I stayed, the more I realized this wasn't my first time here. I'd been circling this patch of woods for longer than I understood. Not just 4 days, maybe not even 4 weeks. I slept by the fire that night. Not because I chose to, because there was nowhere else to go. No sunrise woke me. Just the dull gray light of a sky that never brightened. And in that fog-heavy morning, I found a second campsite, 20 yards from mine. Identical tarp, identical pack. The only difference was the tent unzipped, collapsed inward, and a journal beside it. The handwriting inside was mine, not similar mine. Page after page of entries I'd never written, all detailed, all specific. Tracking sounds, recording locations, night. 11. They stop calling my name now. They use his. Night 16. The other me doesn't sleep. Night 20. I dream in reverse. I forget before I remember. Then the last page, scrawled hard enough to rip the paper beneath it. He's learning to be me faster than I remember how. That's when I noticed the final lines weren't written in pen. They were written in charcoal, smeared with blood. If you're reading this, it's already started. He's in your camp now, not yours anymore. I stood and ran. I didn't pack anything. Didn't grab the book, just sprinted through the trees, ducking under branches, ignoring the sting of bark against skin, running until I couldn't hear the voices anymore. But when I stopped, when I finally looked up, I was back at my fire, fresh again. Wood stacked, flames low. And beside the book, where the photo had been, was a small object. My old wristwatch, the one I'd lost in college and never found. Still ticking, still set to the correct time. Only now, on the underside of the strap, someone had carved 4 words. We walked together now. I didn't touch the watch, just stared at it ticking on the log beside me, like a heartbeat that didn't belong to anything anymore. It looked worn, but the glass was spotless. The leather smooth like it had been taken care of by someone who remembered me better than I remembered myself. I backed away from the fire, eyes scanning the clearing, looking for the seams, the break in the loop, the edge of whatever this was. But the woods didn't end. They just repeated. Trees leaned at the same angle. Roots split in the same curve. The same 2 birds flew the same arc overhead every time I looked up. I started walking again. Didn't matter where. I wasn't trying to escape anymore. I just needed to prove to myself that distance was still real. I counted steps, marked a tree with my knife, came back around 20 minutes later. The mark was there, but mirrored, cut from the opposite side, deeper, cleaner, and below it, a new one. Not mine, carved with a smoother hand, sharper tool, steadier pressure. My initials, and the date, tomorrow's date. I turned away, heart pounding, and found myself looking at a new path, one I swear hadn't been there before. It was straight, lined with rocks, fresh. It looked like a trailhead from a park map. Invitation more than warning. I walked it. I had to. And at the end was a cabin, real, not burned, not collapsed, standing solid in a clearing that smelled like old pine and fresh soap. I stopped at the porch, stared at the door. It was open, a crack, like it had been left that way for me. Inside, the air was warm, clean. There was a cot, a shelf, a mirror above a sink, and on the wall a corkboard, full of notes, maps, lists, all in my handwriting, but better, tighter, like I'd been here longer than I'd ever been alive. One note stood out, clipped dead center. New subject arrived, adapting slower, won't last. Below it, test concludes when subject accepts reflection. I backed away, bumped the mirror. Didn't mean to look, but I did. And the version of me that stared back wasn't tired, wasn't cracked. He looked rested, prepared, like someone who'd practiced. His clothes were cleaner, skin healthier, eyes calmer. And when I didn't move, he did. First a smile, then he raised his hand, slow, measured, and pointed not at me, but at the corner behind me. I turned, nothing there. When I looked back at the mirror, it was blank. No reflection, just the room behind me. Only empty, no shelf, no cot, just gray walls. I ran out the door, through the trees. I don't know how far. But when I finally collapsed again, I was back at the burned cabin, back at the stone with my name freshly carved. But this time something was different. A bag leaned against the rock. My bag. Inside, everything I'd left behind, book, GPS, even the socks from night one. All clean, folded, cataloged, with a note tucked inside. Ready for re-entry. That's the word that stuck with me. Re-entry. Like I'd never left. Like I was part of a cycle being reset again. And now, I've started forgetting my own voice. It sounds too much like the one I hear outside the tent. Calm, even familiar. I whisper things to test myself, old jokes, childhood memories, passwords from jobs I don't have anymore. And sometimes the other voice finishes them before I can. Like it's reading ahead, filling in, improving. I don't know what day it is, but I do know one thing. I'm not trying to get out anymore. I'm trying to stay me long enough for someone else to find this. Because soon, when I speak, it won't be my voice. It'll be his. And I don't think I'll notice when that change finally settles. I think I'll just agree. The night I stopped fighting wasn't dramatic. There was no breakdown, no scream into the treetops, no final sprint through the dark. It happened slowly, like a shirt soaking through in rain unnoticed until it clung to every inch of me. I woke in the clearing again, back at the stone with the names, and didn't wonder how I got there. I just sat up, stretched, and moved like it was part of the routine. That was the first real sign. Not fear, not resistance, but compliance. The kind that's earned after so many repetitions. Your muscles remember what your mind refuses to acknowledge. My knife was gone. I didn't look for it. My watch was back on my wrist, ticking quietly, the second hand moving with a rhythm that matched my pulse for the first time in days. I walked to the burned cabin and wasn't surprised to find it whole again, reconstructed, like a reset stage between acts. Inside, the mirror was uncovered. No cloth, no dust. Clean and waiting. I looked. Of course I did. And for the first time, I didn't wait to see if it would move first, because it didn't need to. It was me, confident, steady. It nodded. Just once, I nodded back. That's when the door creaked open behind me. I didn't turn. The voice came from the entryway low. Sure, my own, but clearer. It's better when there's only one of us. I wanted to argue. I wanted to scream. But the words that came out weren't mine. Not entirely. I know, I said, and I meant it. That night, I sat by the fire and flipped through the book again. Same pages, same worn cover, but this time it read like something I'd written. It echoed. It agreed. A second fire burned nearby, maybe 20 yards off. I knew it wasn't mine, but I didn't walk toward it. I just watched the smoke rise, the sparks drift, and felt the other presence beside me. Not hiding now, not pretending. I didn't look at him, didn't need to. He breathed when I breathed, sat when I sat, and when I whispered something, anything, he whispered the same thing at the same time, perfectly. And in that moment I realized he didn't just want to become me, he already had. And I had become what he was. A layer, a version, a former self echoing back through the clearing like smoke. I don't remember my last full day. I don't remember what I wore when I came here, but I remember standing in the woods as a boy once and thinking, this place is too quiet, like it's waiting for something. I think it was waiting for me, for all of us, one at a time, because that second fire, it burned for someone new now. I heard their name whispered in the trees last night. Not mine, someone else, someone arriving, lost, alone, trying to walk out of a forest that doesn't let go, and I know what comes next. I sit, I wait, I listen, because that's what he did for me. And when the new one stops walking, when he hears the voice at 3:44 a.m., whispering his name in just the right cadence, from just the right distance, it'll be my voice now, practiced, soft, patient. And when he turns around, I'll smile the way I was taught, the way the reflection did, and I'll say what's always been said, the final line of the script. Don't be afraid. I remember you. He showed up just before dusk, young, maybe mid-20s, fresh boots, overpacked bag, trying to act like the quiet didn't bother him. I watched from the tree line. I don't remember moving there, but I was already in place by the time he paused at the edge of the clearing. He looked around, did a slow 360 like he expected to see signs of life, and for a second I thought maybe he'd turn back. But no one turns back. That's not how this place works. It doesn't trap you with violence. It lures you with recognition. I stepped back into the woods, the way I'd been taught, the way the one before me had. Let him set up camp. Let him feel the illusion of control. When the fire started crooked, too much kindling, not enough coal, I watched him warm his hands, flip open a book, same one I carried in, different edition, still worn. I sat across the clearing, maybe 30 yards away, back to a tree, quiet as memory. I didn't need to hide. He couldn't see me yet. They never do. not until the moment they break from time at 3:44 a.m. I stood and walked halfway toward his tent, close enough to be heard, not seen. Then I said his name, just once, and I waited. The breathless pause, the shift of weight, the first spark of fear that turns into pattern. He didn't call back. They never do. But I heard him sit up. I heard the zipper move. And I stepped away, back into the dark, where all of this repeats. Later, he'll find the sock, the journal, the photo. He'll try to run. He'll loop. He'll scream into the trees. And they'll echo back with words no one ever taught them. And I'll be there. Not chasing, not guiding, just mirroring. And when the time comes, when he stares into a reflection that doesn't wait for him to move, I'll be on the other side, watching, ready. Because that's what I am now. Not the voice in the woods, not the man in the tent. I'm what's left after. I'm the shape that memory becomes when it's practiced too long. I'm the second version, the better one, the one that never forgets, never sleeps, never hesitates. And tonight, he'll hear me breathe beside his tent, not calling, not mocking, just there, as steady and warm and familiar as the version of himself he's about to leave behind. And when he finally whispers, "Who's out there?" I'll say what I heard long ago, what we always say. You are.